Let's talk about Amazon S3. Now, you've probably never clicked on an S3 button, but I guarantee you use it probably dozens of times every single day. It's one of the most critical yet completely invisible building blocks of the modern web. So I think it's time we pull back the curtain and actually see what's running the show behind the scenes.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Every photo you post, every show you stream, every single document you save to the cloud, where is it all going? We are creating this tidal wave of digital stuff, and it all has to be stored somewhere, right? It doesn't just vanish into thin air. And the scale we're talking about here is just mind-bending. To put it in perspective, this number, 5 terabytes, that's the maximum size of a single file you can stick in Amazon S3. One file. That is literally thousands of movies packed into one digital object. Yeah, we are not talking about your desktop's hard drive anymore. This is storage on a planetary scale.
So how in the world do you even start to understand a system that massive? Well, the best way, honestly, is to start with a really simple analogy. Let's build a mental model of how this all works. The easiest way to picture S3 is just to imagine a gigantic, infinite digital warehouse. Or maybe a filing cabinet that never ever runs out of drawers. You can just keep putting more and more and more in, and it will always have room for more. For all practical purposes, the space is unlimited. Okay, so in our infinite warehouse, the very first thing you need is a container, a place to put your stuff. In the world of S3, that's called a bucket. Think of it like a main folder or a drawer in that cabinet. And here's the crazy part. Every single bucket across the entire S3 system globally has to have a 100% unique name. That's how S3 keeps track of everything.
So what goes inside a bucket? Well, you put objects in there. But, and this is super important, an object is way more than just a file. It's the file, yeah, but it's also bundled with a whole bunch of really useful information about itself. You see, every object has 3 main parts. First, you've got the key. That's basically just the file name, its unique identifier, like photos/vacation.jpg. Then you have the data. That's the actual stuff, the picture, the movie, the ones and zeros. And then you have the secret sauce, metadata. This is data about your data, what kind of file it is, when it was last modified. It's what makes the storage smart. All right, so we've got an infinite warehouse. Sounds great, right? Well, there's a catch. An infinite warehouse could have an infinitely large bill if you're not careful. Let's be honest, you don't need to access that family photo from 2008 as fast as the video you're trying to watch right now. And S3 has a brilliant solution for this. It's called storage classes, and it really comes down to a simple trade-off between speed and cost. For data you need instantly, all the time, like for a busy website, you use S3 Standard, super fast, millisecond access. For things you don't touch very often, like monthly backups, you can use Standard IA, still fast, but way cheaper. And for stuff you just need to archive for legal reasons or something, you can throw it in Glacier Deep Archive. It's incredibly cheap, but fair warning, it might take a few hours to get your file back. It's all about choosing the right shelf for the right job. So storing files is one thing, but what happens when you've got billions, or hey, even trillions of them? You can't hire enough people to manage that by hand. It's impossible. And this is where S3 goes from being just a storage place to being a truly intelligent system. This is done with something called lifecycle policies. You just set up simple rules, and S3 does all the work for you. For example, you can say, hey, when any new file is uploaded, put it in the fast, expensive storage. But if nobody touches it for 30 days, automatically move it to the cheaper tier. And then if it's still just sitting there after 90 days, move it again to the super cheap long-term archive. You just set it and forget it. It's brilliant. And the scale of this automation is just staggering. Using a tool called S3 Batch Operations, you can literally perform an action, like copying files, changing metadata, or even deleting them, on billions of objects with a single command. That's not a typo. Billions. A task that would have been unthinkable is now just one API request. Now here's another feature that sounds really technical, but is an absolute game changer. It's called strong consistency. In the old days of cloud storage, you had this weird problem where you might save a file, and then if you tried to read it back a split second later, you might get the old version. Super confusing. S3 fixed this. Now, the moment a write is successful, any read from anywhere in the world will get that new data instantly. What you write is what you get. That kind of reliability is what makes it possible to build the rock-solid apps we depend on. So, we've gone through buckets and objects and all these cool policies. But let's bring it back. Why does any of this actually matter to you? Well, because when you put all these pieces together, S3 becomes the silent foundational layer for a massive chunk of the internet you use every single day. That show you're binge watching, those video files are almost certainly sitting in S3. The company analyzing huge piles of data to figure out the next big trend, all that data lives in S3. That backup service that saves your bacon when your laptop dies, you guessed it, probably S3. It is the engine behind everything from tiny little websites to the most powerful AI and machine learning applications on the planet. And really, that's the key takeaway here. S3 isn't just a place to dump your files. It's so much more than that. It's a fundamental building block. By providing such a cheap, reliable, and scalable foundation, it lets developers and creators stop worrying about the plumbing, about storage, and start focusing on building the next amazing thing. It completely levels the playing field, letting a two-person startup work with data at the same scale as a massive corporation. And that is truly revolutionary.
So, as we look at how services like S3 have, for the most part, solved the problem of storing a virtually infinite amount of information, it leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. If storage is basically handled, what's the next great digital challenge we need to solve? Is it making sense of all that data? Is it securing it? Is it something else entirely? That's the question that S3's incredible success now allows us to ask.